Mortgage. A mortgage is the only debt most financial advisors will tell you to take without flinching. You borrow money to buy a physical asset that historically appreciates in value, generates equity with every payment, and shelters your family simultaneously. The bank loans you 80% of a property's value. You put down 20%. The moment you sign, you control a $400,000 asset with $80,000. That leverage ratio is unavailable in almost any other financial instrument accessible to ordinary people. The interest rate is low because the asset itself is the collateral. If you stop paying, the bank takes the house. The risk to the lender is bounded, so the rate you pay reflects that security. Your payment builds equity. Equity is net worth. Rent builds nothing. 30 years of mortgage payments leaves you with a paid-off asset worth potentially double what you borrowed. 30 years of rent leaves you with 360 receipts and zero ownership. The danger with mortgages is overextension, buying the maximum the bank approves instead of the maximum you can comfortably afford. The bank calculates your qualification. It doesn't calculate your life. Property taxes, maintenance, insurance, vacancy. Those costs live outside the mortgage calculation and inside your real budget. A mortgage at 28% of your take-home income is a tool. A mortgage at 55% is a trap wearing a front door. Student loans. Student loans sit in the uncomfortable middle of the debt spectrum. The theory is sound. You borrow to acquire credentials that increase your earning power permanently. The return on a 4-year degree in engineering, medicine, law, or computer science can be enormous. The debt pays for itself many times over. The problem is when the theory meets reality. A $180,000 law degree from a top school that places you in corporate law is defensible debt. A $120,000 communications degree from a mid-tier school that places you in a $38,000 marketing job is a financial disaster wearing a diploma. The rule most financial planners apply is simple. Your total student debt at graduation should not exceed your expected starting salary in your chosen field. If you expect to earn $55,000, borrow no more than $55,000. The moment that ratio flips, the debt stops being an investment and starts being a sentence. The other complication is federal versus private loans. Federal loans have income-driven repayment options, forgiveness programs, and deferment flexibility. Private loans have none of those. Mixing the two without understanding which can trap you in payments with no exit options. Student debt doesn't go away in bankruptcy. That makes it uniquely dangerous among all consumer debts. You can discharge credit card debt in bankruptcy. You cannot discharge student loans without proving undue hardship, a standard courts interpret so narrowly it rarely applies. Business debt. Business debt is the only debt specifically designed to generate more money than it costs. You borrow $50,000 to buy equipment that produces $200,000 in annual revenue. The debt is a tool of production, not a tool of consumption. That distinction is everything. Consumer debt buys something that depreciates the moment you acquire it. Business debt, when used correctly, buys something that compounds in value over time. A restaurant owner borrowing to open a second location is using leverage the way wealthy people use leverage, to own more production, not more stuff. The risk is that business revenue is not guaranteed. A mortgage is backed by property. Student loans are backed by earning potential. Business debt is backed by a projection, a forecast, a plan that the market may or may not validate. When business debt goes wrong, it goes wrong completely. Small business default rates are high. Most businesses that fail owe money they cannot repay. The difference between good business debt and catastrophic business debt is usually one word: demand. You borrowed because customers were there, or you borrowed hoping they would come. One of those is leverage. The other is gambling. Auto loans. Auto loans sit at the first level where debt starts working clearly against you rather than for you. The moment you drive a new car off the lot, it loses 10 to 20% of its value. You owe more than the car is worth from day one. This is called being upside down. The collateral is depreciating faster than the debt is shrinking. You're paying interest on something that is worth less every single month. A car loan on a used vehicle with a short term, 2 to 3 years, is manageable debt. You pay it off before the car falls apart. A 72-month loan on a new vehicle at a high interest rate is a slow financial bleed. You're paying thousands in interest on an asset worth less each year. The car payment treadmill makes this worse. You trade in your old car, roll the negative equity into the new loan, extend the term, and the cycle resets. You never own anything. You just pay forever. The rule is simple. If you cannot afford to buy a reliable used car in cash, you cannot afford the car you're looking at. Transport is a cost. Treat it like one. Buy now, pay later. Buy now, pay later services look like a convenience. They are a restructuring of impulse purchasing into installment debt. Split your $200 purchase into 4 payments of $50. Zero interest, right? The interest is hidden. Miss a payment and the fees begin. Late fees, service fees, account fees. Some services charge interest from day one if the balance isn't cleared. The psychological damage is more dangerous than the financial cost. Buy now, pay later removes the friction of purchasing. Friction is the mechanism that stops you from buying things you don't need. Remove the friction, and you remove the protection. Studies show buy now, pay later users spend significantly more than cash or card users. The product has been carefully designed to capture more of your spending. It is not a financial service built around your interests. It's a financial service built around your impulse. The unpaid balances don't always appear on credit reports, which means users accumulate multiple simultaneous buy now, pay later obligations without any single lender seeing the full picture. Then the payments stack. For services, each running 2 to 4 payments. Suddenly you have 16 small payments running at once, and the mental accounting collapses. Buy now, pay later isn't the reason people go broke, but it's an accelerant on spending habits that were already on fire. Credit cards. Credit cards are the most widely misused financial product in the world. Used correctly, they are a 45-day interest-free loan with cashback, travel points, purchase protection, and fraud liability limits that make them genuinely superior to cash. Used incorrectly, they are the highest legal interest rate available to consumers, typically 20 to 29% annually, compounding daily. The minimum payment trap makes credit cards particularly lethal. A $5,000 balance at 24% interest, paying only the minimum every month, takes 17 years to clear and costs nearly $8,000 in interest on a $5,000 purchase. You pay for the thing twice, and then some. The people who pay their balance in full every month win the credit card game completely. They get the points, the protection, the float. The people who carry a balance fund the reward system for everyone else. Credit card companies profit from the carrying balance. The rewards programs are not a gift from the bank. They are funded by the interest charged to people who cannot pay in full. Knowing which side of that equation you're on is the most important financial self-assessment you can make. Medical debt. Medical debt is unique in the debt landscape because it is almost never chosen. You don't decide to get sick. You don't choose your emergency. The bill arrives, often enormous, after the crisis has already passed. This makes medical debt psychologically and financially different from every other form of debt on this list. The amount bears no relationship to your financial decisions. It reflects the moment you needed help and the cost the system assigned to that moment. Medical debt in the United States is the leading cause of personal bankruptcy, more than job loss, more than divorce, more than any financial mistake. The system is designed around billing at rates almost no one pays, then negotiating down. Always negotiate. Medical bills are almost never the real number. Hospitals have financial assistance programs. Bills can be settled for significantly less than the original amount. The most dangerous thing you can do with medical debt is put it on a credit card. You convert non-dischargeable in a good way debt into high-interest revolving debt. Medical debt alone rarely destroys credit the way it once did. Newer credit scoring models have reduced its impact. But medical debt on a credit card destroys credit the same as any other high balance. Personal loans. Personal loans are unsecured debt at interest rates that reflect the lender's risk in lending without collateral. Rates typically range from 6% to 36% depending on your credit score. No asset backs the loan. If you default, the lender loses the money and sues you. Because the lender has no collateral to recover, they price the risk into the rate. A personal loan used to consolidate high-interest credit card debt at a lower rate is a sensible financial move. You reduce the rate, fix the payment, and have a clear payoff date. A personal loan used to fund a vacation, buy furniture, or cover a gap you haven't fixed is debt that compounds the problem it was borrowed to solve. The fundamental question with any personal loan is what changes when this money arrives. If nothing changes, your spending, your income, your habits, the loan is a bridge to a worse version of the same situation. If something real changes, the loan can be a genuine reset tool. The money itself is neutral. What you do with it determines everything. Payday loans. Payday loans are where the debt spectrum stops being dangerous and starts being predatory. The annual percentage rate on a payday loan typically runs between 300% and 600%, sometimes higher. The framing is always the same. You need $300 until Friday. You pay back $345 on Friday. That sounds like $45. What it actually is a 400% annualized interest rate on a 2-week loan. Payday loan users are, by definition, at the bottom of the liquidity ladder. They have no savings, no credit access, and no buffer. The lender knows this. The product is designed around the certainty that many borrowers cannot repay on time and will roll the loan over, paying a new fee to extend. Each rollover generates another fee. Each fee reduces the cash available to repay the principal. The debt grows while the bank account shrinks. The mathematical endpoint of a rollover payday loan cycle is financial collapse. There is no version of this product where the borrower consistently wins. The people who use payday loans are the people who can least afford the rates they charge. This is not coincidence. It is the business model. Credit card debt default. Defaulted credit card debt is the endpoint of a process that usually starts innocently and ends catastrophically. You miss one payment. The interest rate jumps to the penalty rate, sometimes 29.99%. A late fee appears. Next month is harder. You miss again. The minimum payment grows. The balance grows faster than you can pay it. You stop opening the statements. The phone calls start, then the collection letters, then the lawsuit. A judgment against you allows wage garnishment. They can take money directly from your paycheck before it reaches you. Your credit score falls to a level that makes renting an apartment difficult, getting a job in certain industries impossible, and borrowing at any reasonable rate unthinkable. The credit recovery from a default takes 7 years to fully clear from your credit report. 7 years of higher rates, rejected applications, and financial consequences for a debt that may have started as a medical emergency, a job loss, or a period of crisis. The cruelty of defaulted debt is that the people who fall into it are rarely there by choice. They are usually there because every other option ran out first. Understanding debt isn't about judgment. It's about knowing which tools cut and which ones build before you pick them up.